told us last week is that we are being built into the dwelling place for God, that we are being built into a house for God. That when we look at ourselves, when we look at in a mirror at ourselves, what God is doing in us is he's building in us, making each of us a house where God can dwell. That God can dwell richly in me, and he's building forth a house for me. He says from this house, last week he says that our foundation is on those of the apostles and prophets. That we're built on that foundation. We were very careful to say last week that he's not saying that we are the actual prophets or apostles, but we're built on their foundation. They were eyewitnesses. They were allowed to go where they went and see what they saw so that they can tell the story and record the story. And we're now built on that foundation. We're not orphans spiritually. We're not just floating around. We're not just, this whole thing of Christianity didn't just start when we got saved and we gave our lives to Christ, but we're built on a foundation, a tradition, a heritage that came from the apostles and the prophets. And he says that each one of you now who are in Christ, who we have Christ as our cornerstone, in which the whole church is built together, that everything rests on the stone of Christ, the cornerstone, the rock of our salvation, the rock of Jesus Christ. And because everything in our Christian experience is built on Christ, he says he's now building in us a house, a foundation. That each of us are a spiritual house, that God dwells in us. That's a concept that we can spend more than a week, month, a year, a lifetime meditating and grabbing hold of, that God dwells in us. We had that digging deeper section that we added last week. It is in your notes again for this week. Just in case you didn't see it, on the back of your handout this morning, you have the sermon notes. Inside of there is a section called Digging Deeper, so that all throughout the week we can continue to meditate on this word. Spend some time meditating on the house that God is building in you. Paul